An election is coming up here in America, and big tech plans on creating chaos on election night. They're going to start censoring posts, even posts by the President of the United States, if he says something they don't want to hear, such as declaring victory. As proof of this, I'd like to draw your eye to what a CNET reporter sent to Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab. Remember that Gab is a social media site that doesn't censor its users' posts because they have the wrong political opinions. Anyway, let's take a look. It says, quote, "Hello, I'm Queenie Wong, a reporter at CNET who covers social media companies. There's been some concerns about a presidential candidate declaring victory on election night before the votes are counted. How is Gab planning to handle this type of content? Other social networks have mentioned using labels, directing people to accurate results. Are you planning to do something similar? Thanks for the help." Unquote. I wonder which presidential candidate she could be talking about. Maybe the same one that they've been talking about cutting the microphone off of during the debates. Yeah, that one. The one the entire left and big tech wants to silence. Now, these same people talk about election interference all the time. Russia, Russia, Russia. Right. And at the same time, they want to prevent the President of the United States, prevent a presidential candidate, at least, from being able to speak freely. It's unbelievable, and it's such a shame that the Republican Party didn't do anything about this election meddling by big tech when they had the chance to. Anyway, let's take a quick look at Andrew Torba's response. Again, he's the CEO of Gab. He says, quote, "Queenie, Gab does not editorialize the content of our community members. The Trump campaign, the Biden campaign, and anyone else are welcome to speak freely on Gab. Gab plans to protect the integrity of the election by being the only social network to allow the free flow of information online." Unquote. Yeah, that should have been the response that came from all of these so-called social media companies. But I'm pretty sure that's not what, Twitter said, or Facebook, for example. It's the only social network that doesn't want to engage in outright election meddling. And let's be honest here, we all know which side is going to be censored by big tech. After all, it was recently revealed by Wired, which is a magazine about technology. It's not a conservative outlet. It was revealed by them that 95% of donations from employees of big tech have gone to Biden. 95%. If it was ambiguous which side big tech was really on, that should clear it up. And by the way, how do these big tech companies know what's the truth on election night? If President Trump says something, for example, how do they know that it's untrue? I mean, seriously, they're electing themselves to be the arbiters of truth. They want to make sure that the president doesn't claim victory. Voters be damned. And at some point, these people ought to go to prison for election interference. If I did what they do, I would go to prison for election interference. But one thing that seems to be kind of missing from this whole conversation is that it doesn't actually matter how the popular vote breaks down, or is breaking down on election night. It matters who the Electoral College electors choose, because we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. So it's not about, all these votes coming in, it's about the votes of the electors of the Electoral College. The United States has never been a democracy. Leftists keep using this term all the time to try and confuse people about what we are. In fact, democracy is never mentioned in the US Constitution nor the Declaration of Independence. And that's a good thing, because democracy is mob rule. If we were democracy, we would be ruled over by California and New York. The rest of the country would have no say in the elections. That's why, one of the reasons why, we're not a democracy. Because it was important to the founders of the country that the entire country has a voice. If the entire country doesn't have a voice, you result in things like civil wars. It was the founding father, Benjamin Franklin, who famously said, and I quote, "Democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what they're going to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote." Unquote. We shouldn't be seeking democracy. We shouldn't be seeking one group of people essentially destroying the rights of the other group, which is what actually takes place in a real democracy. We have a republic, and we should be proud of the constitutional republic that we have, where everybody in all different areas of the country have a voice, where their votes actually matter in a sense. The votes, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? Like, you hear about people who promote democracy, and they say that for every vote to matter, we have to have this, pure democracy system. But if you did that, the votes of people in the Midwest, for example, wouldn't really have any value. The votes of people in rural America wouldn't really have any value. None of these places would. It would just be New York, California, and they determine the election. It is because we have a republic and we have electors that represent each state in the United States that we all actually get counted, that our opinions actually do matter. Anyway, just be prepared, because on election night, Big Tech is planning on making the whole thing as problematic as possible. It's a very dangerous game. It's a dangerous game when you tell both sides of an election that they won, because that's what they're trying to do. What's going to most likely happen is at a time when President Trump says, okay, I won the election, Big Tech is going to try and disguise that and say, no, he hasn't, this other side has won the election, and that results in civil unrest if it's not intervened with. And those on the left, like, for example, actual Democrats, are also preparing for this. It's incredibly dangerous. So, and by the way, sign up for Gab if you haven't already, where you can actually give your opinions and not be censored for it. I'm already over there. Wait, if you enjoyed that video, please remember to like and share. I can't grow without you. Also, if you want to be reliably notified of new videos, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're able to support the production of these videos, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe at Subscribestar, or maybe get one of the healthier products, or even get some merch.